So show me again the subject and then lift your hand. Just again the subject, lift your hand for the counter subject. Okay, so I see the separation. One more time, separately the tonal answer when it comes in. It'd be measure 3. Rest. Here. That's the tonal answer. Right? It's 5 notes above the subject. Short, short, long. Short, short, roll to there and fall down. Good. Now we're going to combine the 2 voices. So far we have only 2 voices, not yet a 3rd voice. Okay, start slowly. Short, 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 roll to there and fall down. Good job. You did all the right groupings of the notes. That was very good. Okay, now we're continuing. This is called a transition that prepares for the 3rd voice. It's like a little in between. But we can already see that in the, what comes in sounds like what? In rhythm. What does it sound like? What's coming next? What does the rhythm of it resemble? The rhythmic groupings. What does it resemble? The subject, doesn't it? Because the subject was da-da-dum, bum, bum. So you have that right here. Da-da-dum, bum, bum, da-da-dum. It's a piece of the subject. Da-da, right? Is it a little piece of it? Right. It's not the same notes, but the rhythm is related to the beginning, and it's like they're doing little sequences, which are doing the same thing, going higher and higher. Show me these little bunch of sequences using the subject rhythm, and also, actually, more than that, because these are half steps in the beginning, right? So these are little half steps. But they're bigger jumps down, aren't they? They're down a 6th. Are they down a 6th here? This was just a 4th, right? And then it became a 5th down. And then it became a 6th down. So measure 5. So then you have to lift your hand there too. Okay, we're going to go up to there. So here's what we're going to do. When you got here, that's it. Okay, that's the idea there. Because now, after that, what happens in the left hand in measure 7? 3rd voice, 3rd voice, subject. 3rd voice is in the bass. We're waiting for the 3rd voice of the fugue, right? Here's the 3rd voice, and it's the what? Subject, right? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Right, so finally we have the 3rd voice. So I just wanted you to go up to before the 3rd voice came. So do it again for measure 5 where you have the transition. It's more intensified when it keeps going higher, right? Do that much again. Good, that's it. Now I want to know what the left hand is doing in measure 5. It looks, what is it based on? What the left hand's going to do now? It's a scale. It's a piece of a scale, is it not? Mm-hmm. When you did the counter subject, you had a descending scale. So you have an ascending scale, so we call that an inversion of the counter subject. It doesn't have to be the same notes, you know, but it's a direction. So that right now you have a scale going up in steps. He's playing with it again now. See? And then he's doing lots of now he finally comes. So you could say it's based on the inverted means upside down, of the counter subject. Okay, you have to kind of know, because when you're playing this, you know, you want certain things to be brought out, and you need to know, oh, he's turned the subject, counter subject, upside down, more or less. It doesn't have to be the same notes, it's just the direction of a scale, and it's C minor anyway. Okay, show me what that left hand is doing in measure 5. Rest, tie, tie. Good. You know what's so important when you do practice a fugue, that you know every line underneath the other lines. In other words, you can't just go, I know what's upstairs. You have to know what's happening below anything upstairs. Like, you know, you could sing it. Like you could sing while you play this. Right? While you're playing the other hand. That's very important to Bach, because you have to be aware of all the voices. Okay, now I'd like to hear very slowly the 2 voices in measure 5, starting with the right hand, E flat, D, E flat. We're going to go slower so we get all the notes. He's modulating around because he's putting, you know, natural signs in there. So we're going to go this slow. Watch. Is it getting bigger? Define that bum, B, because that's how you did the beginning. Remember, you went ti-da-da, bum, B, and do the same thing with the pieces of the rhythm of the subject. If you really first learn a piece, you have to play as slow as you can control the articulation, the groupings, the phrasing, everything slow as you can do it, but get everything right with the notes too, the correct notes. Got to hold those tied notes, because you'll lose harmony. You'll lose a certain harmony. Here's what I mean. Hold it there, right? Hold, left hand, still there, right? You got to keep those tied notes and things. Start less. And listen for the both voices. You don't want to clip staccato, but your shorter note is going to this one. Bum, P. Again. Good. That's what you're gonna have to do. Otherwise, you know, you get used to doing different things each time, and it gets too fast, and then certain notes. Yeah, and also I would make a big deal out of, you know, things like A naturals and B naturals that we don't expect. You know, that because he's intensifying by pulling these notes up to naturals instead of flats. That they would be. Okay, now I want to hear the whole first page up to there. So you're adding everything together, but not fast. Look how slow I'm going. Why do I do that? Because I know later when I go quicker, it'll all be there if I'm really careful, okay? Yeah, you gotta remember the naturals. Yeah, that's not what it says though. It's da-da-da, bum, bum. You really have to lift your hand. Finally, in measure 7 we have 3 voices. We do. And this is actually that when you have the 3 voices, finally you have the end of the exposition. The exposition means finally the 3 voices are presented. So now here is the left. Which voice has the 3rd voice now? Bass. Bass. Okay, you started with the subject in the alto, and now it's migrated to the bass. So we're gonna go ta-da-dum, bum. Real careful work. Ta-da-dum, bum, bum. That's how I want it. Okay. Lean, ta-da, short, short, lean, ta-da, short, short, ta-da. Good, there it is. Let's see, we're doing piece by piece. Okay, now in the right hand, the last you played was you went this. Okay, now that we can slur this here, and what's happening is that C is a quarter note. It has to be held. We can't. It does. It's held through. See? Is that held through that? Is it?
No.
Yes, it is. There's a quarter note. So you're gonna have a little passing dissonance when you have this. Watch. Yeah, that's what he wants. Because you have to hold that C worth what? 4/16? So the C is held all the way through the D natural.
Both C and F?
The C on the bottom, not the F, because
Not
the
the
F upstairs is just an 8th note tied over to an 8th. But the C on the bottom stays through the E flat D. So you get a passing dissonance. So here's what happens. Right? Right? Now what does that represent, that scale down? The E flat, D, C, B flat, A flat, G, F. What is that? Is that part of the subject or the counter subject?
Counter subject.
Right, because the counter subject was a descending scale. So here he has it. It doesn't have to be the same number of notes. It's just that it's a stream down of a scale. So why is this important? Well, I think it's important because when you play this, you have to have the structure and the architecture of this beside just hearing 2 hands or playing 3 voices. You have to know what's going on. Let's go back here. Just right hand. And continue, okay? Just right hand from there. Short, short, long, ti-da-da, and more, and even more, ti-di-di, underneath, ta-di-di-di-di-da. Now what we have here is counter subject in duet form. 2 voices, right? In thirds? Yes? Can you do that in thirds? But we're going to lift there, watch. Lift. So he actually has a different. Actually, it's this. Look. Connect. That's very tricky because the bottom voice here is watch. At the top, he has a different slurring. Watch, because this is connected, while this is not. Look, you have to do it that way. Look, see that? It's kind of tricky. If you can pull that off, that's great. This is going to be tricky because now we have 3 voices. You were up to now playing 2 voices.
Should I lift after this too, or no?
Yes, lift. Definitely lift. At the end there, yeah. Toddy, lift. See, look. But I managed to do it. Because I keep holding on to the upper notes to make them legato, whereas I release the lower notes early. Does that make sense? Okay, now what gets tricky now is putting the bass subject against what's happening above. So this is where the piece gets more tricky. Or what would you bring out mostly? You bring out the subject, right? Would that be right? Would you? Would that be mostly what you? Right, because if all that other stuff drowns out the subject, then the subject is the protagonist, is the leader, the fugue. We're following the leader. Fuga means to follow, to follow. And so we're really looking for that subject, but we cannot dismiss the voices around the subject, right? Otherwise it's not Bach. Okay, so for something like this, I would advise that you go very slow, because now you would do this. See, I'm still holding that C, right? Look how slow I'm going. Look how slow. Because what? One hand is lifting, the other is not always, right? Right? Right, one hand's legato, the other hand is doing what? Lifts and different groupings, correct? It's like a real mental workout. It's a mental workout, isn't it? This is the same subject you played at the beginning, only you're playing an octave lower, right, than you did in the alto voice. It's the exact same thing you started with. Comes right back exactly. Because the subject often comes back exactly. I mean, it's supposed to come back when it's full subject, not when it's an episode where you go away from the subject, you know, pieces of it. Is always going to find a full statement of the subject all the way to the end, somewhere in the piece, right? You always have to say, where is the subject? It's going to come back a few more times, you know. So you want to say, don't let it get buried along. It's the protagonist. So your balance is toward the subject. You know, you're bringing things back. Like that. You can see this is, so you're going to go really slow, but you know, you could also do things like just the top, right? You can do things like this, right? 5, 5, 4. You have to use those fingerings, right? You can't. See how I get that? Do you see how I got the legato on top? That's tricky because you're just letting go of the lower note a little quicker than you're dragging the upper notes. It's actually the one that's almost a classic fugue. You can follow everything. You can pretty much see what he does in the beginning, and then you're going to follow the subject, and then you're going to see pieces of the subject, like here. See, it's only a piece of it, which is so beautiful. Just sequences, little parts of it that he takes into different keys. So if you know the original subject, you could say, oh, that's not the complete subject now. There's little pieces. So that can't be a complete subject. That's an episode, because he's going to do that until he does what? Brings the whole subject back.